This Tuesday, Act 2 has released. We've got new weapons, new story, and some new activities. And if you want a guide on that, guys, we've already covered how to go for Aberrant action and how to optimize the new Battleground activity. But today, we're going to be talking about the 5 new artifact mods. You see, Bungie isn't just rolling out content with each one of these acts. They're also giving us 5 new artifact mods, considering that episodes are like an extended season. Adding new artifact mods with each act really spices things up. Now, we have 5 in total. We still have the same 12 out of 12 unlocked, which means decisions, which is really going to just boil it down to whatever it is your build is. Now, just like our other artifact mods, these scale in power going from left to right. Our first one is Anti-Barrier Sniper. This essentially allows sniper rifles to fire shield-piercing rounds and stun barrier champions. Additionally, sniper rifles are always overcharged when this modifier is active. Now guys, it's not just the ability to stun barrier champions that makes this artifact mod so good. It's the ability to shoot through phalanx shields, knight shields, vandal shields, vex shields. All of these can now be pierced by your sniper rifles. On top of that, all your sniper rifles will be overcharged, which means an extra 25% damage being tacked on. Things like Grandmaster Nightfalls, Lost Sectors, hell, even Battlegrounds. Now, there's obviously going to be a ton of different sniper rifles that are going to be benefiting from this champion mod. The one we've kept our eyes on the whole time is actually Critical Anomaly. That's because this one can roll with Chill Clip. And now with the inclusion of Anti-Barrier Sniper, it can now stun all 3 champion types. A fantastic utility sniper, guys, that we've recently reviewed. I highly advise getting it, especially with this artifact mod. Now, continuing down the road, the next mod is Authorized Mods Scavenger. Now, this is very straightforward, as it essentially drops our Scavenger mods to a cost of only 1. Now, let's get into the juicy stuff. The next mod is Incendiary Rifle Rounds. Now, this reads that Solar Sniper Rifle precision hits scorches targets. Now, this seems pretty straightforward, and looking at the mod in action at Carl, when using an Icalo sniper, it would trigger an ignition in 4 precision hits. And that's because this mod is applying 30 scorch stacks off of each one of those sniper hits. Now, for my solar enthusiasts out there, this will synergize with Ember of Ashes, which of course adds more scorch stacks. And what this essentially means is that we're able to reach an ignition in just 3 hits, as we are now applying 45 scorch stacks per precision hits. And for those wondering, no, weapon perks cannot increase our ignition damage. We've actually tried it here with Icalos, with Focus Fury, and although our shots do get the damage buff, our ignitions do not. But another thing I had been curious about was how this differs from archetype to archetype, and if heavy snipers like Whisper the Worm applying more scorch stacks. The answer is that it doesn't change from source to source. So if you're looking to reach ignitions as fast as possible, rapid fire sniper rifles like Icalos are actually your best bet. But to sum up this artifact mod into something you could share with your friends, precision hits from solar snipers will apply 30 scorch stacks at base and 45 scorch stacks with Ember of Ashes. And this is the case for all solar snipers. Now, this takes us to our next mod, and arguably the best mod on this list, Solar Fulmination. It reads that your ignitions do increase damage in an increased radius. Now, jumping into some in-game examples, here at Carl, a base ignition without the mod dealt 36,210 damage. Then with Solar Fulmination active, our ignition damage still does 36,210 damage. But if you notice, there's an extra number being added here, that being an extra 9,120 damage. This is how Solar Fulmination is increasing our range and damage. Visually, you can't tell, but this number is effectively a second explosion, or more accurately, a second ignition. But more on that in just a second. As for what this mod means at base, the second explosion will deal its damage in about a 12-meter radius, which is quite large. And since our new total damage from ignition is now 45,330, Solar Fulmination is increasing our ignition damage by 25%. And this will be happening to all sources. Abilities like Incinerator Snap or Consecration, weapons like Dragon's Breath, and even increasing artifact mods like Incendiary Rifle Rounds. They will all be buffed by Solar Fulmination. But to expand on this a bit more, on what I mean by the second detonation counting as an ignition itself, we can now have ignitions cause ignitions. And what you're seeing here is exactly that. One ignition from Incinerator Snap started a chain reaction that didn't end until this group of enemies was reduced to nothing. Now, how does this work? Now, Solar Fulmination can't do it on its own. There are effectively 3 things you need beside the artifact mod itself. The first is Ember of Char. This is a fragment that reads that your solar ignition spreads scorch to affected targets. This will cause any enemies hit by an ignition, excluding the ignited enemy, to receive 40 scorch stacks. And this is exactly where Solar Fulmination starts starts the chain reaction. That second invisible explosion will also proc Ember of Char. That means you're applying 80 scorch stacks off the rip. But as you know, that's not enough to cause another ignition. This is where piece 2 comes in, and that being Ember of Ashes. Ashes will increase the scorch stacks applied by both explosions to 60. And with both hitting an enemy, that means you're getting 120 scorch stacks. That's more than enough to trigger an ignition. So with Ember of Char, Ember of Ashes, and Solar Fulmination, you can cause chaining ignitions. But what's piece number 3? Well, you can't chain explosions unless the enemies being hit by that first ignition survive it. So piece 3 is really just having a tanking enemy that can withstand the first ignition. And that is honestly what makes this chain ignition strategy so good. It works when we need it the most. That being when enemies don't die to that first explosion. But if they live, the infinite chain of ignitions will ensure that they don't escape. This combo of solar fragments with solar fulmination is genuinely broken. You'll be able to take this into GMs, all types of in-game content, even battlegrounds, and literally lay waste. And yes, we have a beautiful build coming very soon. It's going to take full advantage of this. That requires literally nothing from your Guardian except just standing still and letting the ignitions proc one after another. I know most of us have been glued to Prismatic, and don't get me wrong, I love Prismatic, but this combination is strong enough to warrant you getting back on Solar. Now, while Solar Fulmination may be the mod that breaks the game the most, we have our final mod called Sniper's Meditation. This reads that sniper rifle hits grant stacking sniper rifle damage, stability, and reload bonuses for a short time. Heavy ammo sniper rifle hits count as more than one. Now, this mod will activate off of any type of hit and will grant 1 stack per hit for special snipers and 2 stacks per hit for heavies. For instance, snipers like Whisper and Darcy. Now, the buff lasts for 7 seconds. The max stacks is 5. So that's 5 shots from specials and 3 from our heavies, with the benefit of each stack as follows. Times 1 is 3% and 15 reload speed, times 2 is 6% damage, and plus 30 reload speed times 3 is 9% damage, with a plus 35 reload speed, times 4 is 12% damage, with plus 40 reload, and at max, which is times 5, it caps out at plus 15% damage and plus 45 reload speed. Now, something that's amazing about Sniper's Meditation is that you can actually rock 2 sniper rifles and then transfer the buff between the both of them. For instance, I was doing some damage phases and I was rocking Ikelos with Izanagis, and instead of shooting my honed edge times 4 shot at base, I would actually proc Sniper's Meditation, get to 5 stacks, and then swap to Izanagis to get honed edge times 4 with that 15% increase in damage. Now, no, not everybody's going to be running around with double snipers, especially 2 special snipers, but something to keep in mind. Now, if you're wondering about the stability buff, I don't know, I'm not sure how much that adds, but yes, it adds. The main takeaway is the damage buff, as well as the reload buffs. Those are the things that I know my PvE players are going to care about the most. So to simplify this, each stack of Sniper's Meditation will grant you 3% damage to all snipers. This is not just a solar. Obviously, solar snipers are going to greatly benefit from all of the artifact mods here, but this is something that applies to all sniper rifles. Now, as to how this perk actually applies to them, what are the restrictions? Well, first thing is that it's stackable with everything from weapon surges, weapon perks, to empowering buffs like Radiance, which is fantastic. Now, this 15% damage buff will apply to anything that's considered a sniper bullet. So yes, even Still Hunt's golden gun shots do benefit from this buff. But where things fall off is things like Supremacy's Kinetic Tremors, or even Cloud Strike Storm. Because that's not really considered sniper rifle damage, and it's spawning its own instance of damage, this will not get the buff. I know! It's unfortunate, especially for Cloud Strike. With that being said though, you're looking to be dealing 15% more damage than normal. Sniper's Meditation is looking to solidify snipers as the true meta options for this episode. Still Hunt still has a while to go to its nerf in August, and Whisper the Worm is looking to eat up any other heavy that dares to compete. And yes, we will be doing damage testing very, very soon, guys, comparing all of this during our damage checks. So feel free to come by our Twitch. Eggplant bets are live, so feel free to come join us. So guys, that's it. Those are your new artifact mods and how each of them work. Expect to see some absolutely crazy clips spawned by Solar Fulmination, and get your solar snipers ready to take on the entire game. Whether you're using these artifact mods to bolster your snipers, or causing ignitions, or just dealing with champions, these 5 new mods are some of the best artifact mods Bungie has ever given us. Which makes me wonder, if this continues, what the hell are the mods gonna be in Act 3? Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.